Hello, welcome to my Saturday video for this week. It's Saturday 13th of December and I make a video once a week as a practitioner of Bhakti Yoga, and generally I'm referencing Emanuel Swedenborg, who taught Christianity, Prabhupada, who brought widespread Bhakti Yoga to the West, also Kripalji Maharaj, who is on the internet and stuff, and then Ken Wilber in the integral framework. So look at things like integral Vaishnavism, you could say, or stuff like that. I think that he's really providing a lot of good information, especially for Westerners, and also spiritual emergence as taught by Stanislav Grof. So I don't know if you've seen any of my videos before, but I've covered a few different things like chanting, different things like karma yoga and jnana yoga and stuff like that, and also talked about spiritual emergence as someone who has had experiences like that and stuff. So basically I thought that I'd have a go today at just doing a sort of freestyle talk just on some basic subject matters. So I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but I'll just give it a go. I've written down some basic different subjects and was just going to try and talk about them. What I've written down is incarnations, the plan of creation, the three things, God being a person, the soul's journey, other planets, the golden age, and the Lord's pastimes. So these are some different subjects, and I'll just talk about each one of them. Hopefully with some good reference. I might sort of grab some books or something like that if there's stuff to look at. But yeah, I'll just start off by doing a kirtan. So hopefully you're familiar with kirtan. That's chanting of the Lord's names. And they're in Sanskrit, which is the ancient language of India, and the chanting of the names is considered like a spiritual sound vibration. So it's a form of meditation, and like a devotional practice. So yeah, I'm just going to sing a few things. I'll do Bhajo Giridhari Govinda Gopal, which is one that I got from Kripalji, and just some other ones as well. Bhajo Giridhari Govinda Gopal, 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 Sitaram Sitaram Ram Ram Sitaram. Little kirtan. So yeah, so talking about incarnations, like basically the idea is that at certain times in the history of the world, the Lord comes here personally in a human form, and he's come like multiple times in different incarnations. So like what are called incarnations are like, if you look in Srimad Bhagavatam, like at the beginning of that, there's a list of some different incarnations that the Lord's come in. Three that I personally focus on is Jesus and Krishna and Radha, and then Buddha. So basically when the Lord comes here, he accepts different forms, and the form that he chooses is sort of, it's in relation to the people, the population at large. So his form is kind of like a reflection of the different people that are around in the time that he incarnates. So say for example 5,000 years ago he came as Krishna, and when he comes, he doesn't just come by himself, he comes with all of his like associates and entourage and everything. So like it's as though the whole spiritual world is like descended down to the earth, into the earthly realm. And then what happens is there's these pastimes that go on, which are like it's called Leela, which is like the Lord's like, because he's not like, he doesn't have to do anything. Just for the fun of it, he can kind of do different things. But what is considered one of the leaders of the incarnation is to actually redeem the fallen souls from the material creation. So what he does is he, if you take, like, for instance, the incarnation of Jesus, as taught by Swedenborg, there's two different things. There's like what God goes through when he incarnates, and then what we go through as individuals if we're calling upon the Lord's help. So in the Lord's case, it's called glorification, and in our case it's called regeneration. But what it is it's kind of like it's a process by which temptations enter and then they're overthrown. It's like considered like a Leela in terms of the Lord, because he'll like always win. He just comes to help get us. There's a line in the Bhagavad Gita about it, which is like annihilate the miscreants and like get the saints and stuff, and also the pastimes that he does in those incarnations can attract people to them, because they we can like meditate on the things that the Lord's done, and that helps us. So say what I'm talking about in relation to regeneration and glorification, when the Lord incarnates, he goes through what like a human would go through as a in order to become a spiritual being. So how this is explained, it's a little bit different in Vaishnavism. This is mostly coming from Emanuel Swedenborg, how this is explained, so you could see how it fits in with Christian doctrine, and that temptations were, the Lord allowed temptations to enter into him. So basically he was born, he had a divine conception, and he entered the body of Mother Mary. In Vaishnavism, when the Lord incarnated into not Yashoda, but there was another woman who was the mother, but basically how it was explained is that the Lord is already present everywhere, and so was already present in her womb, and so all he had to do was manifest himself within that womb, and then he would be there. So basically it's just of his own volition, he can just choose to be present. So in Jesus' pastimes, it's not really mentioned any other of them which came with him, but it would stand to reason that others came with Jesus as well. But that's not particularly doctrinally correct. More in Vaishnavism it's explained that he came with Krishna came, and he came with Yoga Maya as well, and he came with his brother and stuff like that. So how this is explained in terms of Christianity is like, so he came into the mother and then she gave birth to him, but the part of him which was human, in order to save the human race, he took on like a human aspect to himself, which he got from his mother. So the mother gave him like a kind of humanity aspect, and then what he did in the course of his life is sort of like he glorified it. So he went through what we would go through as individuals on a spiritual path, but he does it in his God way, which is much bigger, because we're just like we're tiny little fractions of him, but he's like the whole thing, obviously. So where we go through regeneration, he goes through glorification, which is like the whole thing getting changed, where like it changes the heavens and the hells and everything like that. So he got that from his mother, and then in the course of his life, or he allowed temptations to enter into him, which he got from that humanity aspect, and then overthrew those temptations. So like he overcame those hells, and in that way created like what you could see like if you viewed it like an operating system or something like that, to use like a modern analogy, like a computer system. You can talk about things like morphinogenic resonance. So like in the theory of morphinogenic resonance, there's like a type of substrate that is left on the earth, and this is one kind of theory which can look at, and the idea that when Jesus went through that process of glorification and turned the human that he got from his mother into who he really was, which was God, when he divinized himself or glorified himself on the cross, it creates like a kind of a way that he can reach all of the different human beings. So this is quite a technical sort of thing, but basically it means that the Lord is always approachable to other humans, and his idea in that incarnation was that to foresee the spiritual well-being of every individual or on the planet, or at least everyone that would say turn to Jesus Christ, if not a different religion. So so it's explained. That's how it's explained in Swedenborgianism, which fits more clearly with the doctrine of Christianity. In Krishna and Vaishnavism, you're more looking at what's called divine Leela, where it's sort of about, it would say God played as a human being or something like that. So he just kind of can sort of, for his own pleasure, sort of, he can act just like a human being, and the different pastimes that he does are like they also help us, because we can like meditate on those pastimes, and if we learn about the things that the Lord did, because it's spiritual in nature, we can be regenerated, or we can use those pastimes as a meditation in order to contact the spiritual platform, because the pastimes are considered spiritual because they're absolute. So another way that it's explained is they're like the prototype. So if you have like a prototype, you've got like the original person who's God. He's the original person, and then he's expanded himself into, like, say, his brother and whatever, his friends, and all the different things, and then there's all the different associates that are all associated with him and her in that form, and then all the different things that they do are all on the absolute platform. They're all divine, and then when he comes here and does them, then that lets us know what is actually the truth of the spiritual dimension. But interestingly, like, you can say that we also have pastimes, but whereas his are like the prototype, we're like a miniature version, and we all have the things that we do in our life, and there can be similarities between our life and the life of the Lord. How to understand it more in terms of the regenerative aspect is, like, say, in the case of Krishna, you can see the different demons that he overthrew. The main difference between the incarnations, as explained, is Krishna is considered more affection was present, and that he was more the original God, or he was actually the original form of God, because of how easily he just overthrew all these demons and stuff, which was more obviously just like, because in truth, like, God isn't going to struggle with anything, is he? Because he's just God. So, like, the way in which he killed the demons in Krishna's pastimes is sort of attractive in its own way, and it's also, he does it very easily, whereas in Jesus' incarnation, it's more, it just appears to be harder. What he's doing appears to be harder, so there's more of the bloodshed, and more, like, it just appears to be a little bit more difficult. But the point is that I'm making is that there's lots of incarnations actually, whereas Krishna is the original, he's the source of all other incarnations. So obviously attraction to Krishna is, like, really good because you've got the original person. But people have different inclinations, and, like, different people are attracted to different incarnations, which you can understand in terms of what I was saying, that the Lord incarnates in relation to the people that are around him. So the Lord always kind of presents himself in a way that's going to be that's going to suit the mentality of the person who is seeing him. So what you could see is, like, what the general population was like when Krishna appeared, and then that was fitting, and the time was right according to measurements of time and stuff like that, that it was the time for him to incarnate in that form. But you can also see that his form is in relation to the type of people that were around. I think it was Dwapara Yuga, and so you can also view Krishna in terms of, like, the regeneration idea and glorification and stuff like that, and that he also had a church to regenerate. So basically what that means is that when things get really bad on earth, the Lord comes and he fixes the whole problem, and he reestablishes religion as well, so that we have a clear path to salvation. And so the church is like the religious body, you could say, or something like that. So that's quite a bit on incarnations, and I think we'll just take a break, and then we'll come back and talk about the plan of creation next. But I think mainly the idea with the incarnations is just recognizing that the Lord comes, and when he comes, he's not anything like a human. So there's a big difference between, like, a human being who sees that he's God or something like that, which is, like, ridiculous, and actually when God does actually come himself, because we're only jivas, which means that we're just tiny little fractions of God, but God is like the complete whole, and he's we can never be God, although we can merge in his effulgence in order to experience something kind of God-like, but God's only letting us do that, and ultimately the truth is that we're eternally servants of God. So how Swedenborg explains this is that where God is infinite, we are finite, and where God is the creator, we are the created. So really there's just an ability in yourself to kind of accept that, and then re-establish a loving relationship. So how it is that like we have a body and stuff, and we've got a subtle body and a causal body, but then we have a soul. And you might have heard the thing Atman equals Brahman or something like that, which is like the idea that our soul is in some way connected to God. So that's true, but it's also Achintya Beda Beda, which is taught by Lord Chaitanya, another incarnation that appeared 500 years ago, which is simultaneous oneness and difference. So what that means is we have, in one sense, we're one with God because we have something in relation. We're like eternal, and God is eternal as well. And we also have knowledge and wisdom, and but God is all of that combined. So we have a relationship in that the soul of our soul is God, and then further than that, the soul of God's soul is the feminine form. So there's kind of an interaction there, in a relationship that can be developed. So and Bhakti Yoga is all about developing that relationship. So I'd say that Christianity is like is Bhakti Yoga is taught by Swedenborg. He talks about essential to Swedenborg is that God is a person, so that's established. So it's definitely a personal approach. And then in Vaishnavism it goes a little bit further and gets a bit more into the details of God as a person, and not only just him, the one person, but also his associates and his abode and everything like that as well, which is quite difficult. It's said that spiritual variegatedness is one of the hardest things for people to get their head around, because it takes a lot of purification and obviously like a regenerative process to get to the point where you can actually understand that God is a person, and that there's this whole spiritual abode. And so yeah, in the incarnations, I don't know if there's time to just talk about other incarnations, but there's other ones, like say he came as a fish, and there's Ram when he came as Ram, and Lord Chaitanya was 500 years ago, and he came in like he came multiple times, actually not even just 5, but there's the Panchatattva, which is like the Lord came as himself, and then at Chaitanya, and then as his brother Nityananda, and then he came as Vishnu, as Advaita, and then and I get lost on these ones, but there's like a servant form and a devotee form, Srivas. So the Panchatattva mantra is like Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srivas, and then it's also got Adi Gora Bhakta Vrinda, which means in all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So the devotees are kind of considered part of that thing. So that's just some stuff on incarnations. Yeah, so hopefully that's sort of been interesting, and that's 30 minutes, so I'll take a break and then come back and I'll talk about like this sort of plan of creation and stuff like that, with more reference to things. So I hope you've enjoyed this and stick around. So Hare Krishna, and God bless.